everyone. Welcome back to another session, number 3 of 5, with myself and with my friend Paige McPheely, who's CEO at Base. We're talking all about hiring, optimizing your work with, overcoming challenges and head trash, all about EAs and what incredible impact and benefit basically everyone can get and that kind of support in working with someone who can help them to realize their vision, organize their lives, get their stuff together. So today, let's see, we talked before about all of the different things we tell ourselves about why maybe we don't deserve to be working with an EA, or it's not the right time, or we haven't earned that ability yet. Last time we talked about all of the amazing, wonderful things that people don't often think that you can delegate to an EA that you absolutely not only can, but really should. And today, Paige, we're going to talk about, okay, I get it. But like, where and how do I find the right EA for me? Because not all EAs are created equal. They're all incredibly talented human beings that deserve to be matched up with us in the best way possible. So, hi, Paige.
Hello. Hello.
You
So
ready
good
to
to see
talk
you.
about it?
Let's do
Me
it.
too. Yes. So, okay. So before we dive in case everybody hasn't been here for the last 2 sessions, tell us a little bit about Base and what makes you, in my opinion, so incredibly amazing and different than any other EA match provider system.
Yes. So, as we've talked about, a lot of people know the term executive assistant when they hear it, but a lot of people also don't really know what that means. And so that's kind of the space that we live in. We are executive assistant pros, and we are there to help leaders find their exact right fit for an EA. And of course, this is what we're going to talk about all day, but anything from a full-time EA to a part-time remote EA. We run the full gamut and have a custom built software just for our EAs as well that they come matched with. But the way that we are different from some of the other groups out there is that we spend so much time getting the match right. And we give you options, which is not always done. And then we really, really work with you to dial in. Do you have the exact right fit? Because if you don't, it's not going to be a good partnership.
For both sides, right?
Yeah.
And I
Hmm.
know with what we've talked about over the last couple of weeks about the reasons that people resist or kind of tell themselves stories about why an EA wouldn't be the right fit for them, not understanding things that could be delegated. I think a lot of that comes down to not having the right match. A lot of the kind of negative stories that we hear about, like, oh, it just wasn't a fit, I didn't get a lot of value, I don't think they got a lot of value either. I think it's just, it's not a one size fits all thing. And so Base in particular, tell me more about what you do to ensure that that match is special and a good fit.
Yes. So when you first are coming in looking to work with an EA, you just went through all of this. We we spend a lot of time getting to know you. We have a very specific survey that you go through and fill out and tell us all of the things that you like, that you don't like. What are your goals? What are you working towards? Tell us about your work, your life. And we have a lot of the same information from our EAs as well, from our talent pool. And so we've built a tool that helps us do what we've learned the hard way over the last 11 years to do manually, how to really turn the art of matching and finding the right fit into more of a science. And so from there, we surface a selection of EAs that we think would be a great fit for you, for the leader. And then you get a chance to review all of their profiles, ask us any questions that you need, but then also have a get to know you call with whichever EAs that you select. And then from there, you get started. But after you get started, you can do your best to guess, and usually we get it right, but sometimes we don't. And what we find is most people will just kind of keep going anyway.
Yeah.
It's not providing as much value as it could. Maybe the fit is off just by a few degrees, and people just kind of exist with it because it can be harder to change once you've already been onboarded on all of those things. But we try to stay really involved with our customers to make sure, is the fit right? Everything feeling, are you feeling the results that you expected and that you should be experiencing? And then the same thing for REAs. Is it right for them? Because if it's not right for them, then we need to be their advocate and help find a better fit as well. So it's
Hmm.
kind of the central theme of all that we do is making sure we've got the right EA because it doesn't work if you don't.
Exactly. And as I've shared before, I am like weirdly nerding out excited about the person that you matched me up with. Her name is Sam. And you helped me find someone who not only like kind of knows about podcasting, but is like an expert in podcasting, has her own show. She's teaching me things. And so I was already excited about this show that I'm working on, but I'm even more pumped about it now because I have a partner. I have like I have a thought partner, I have a support partner. And, we just got back from the Thanksgiving holiday and I knew like she was messaging me about stuff that she was working on because, that was the time frame that works for her. It doesn't matter to me when she works or when I work, whatever. And she was logging into things and setting things up, and it was just so wonderful knowing that things were happening. um, you know when I'm off doing something else, I was literally in a car driving across the country and she's like getting my podcast set up, and it's so wonderful to have that support. It's incredible. So
It's so wonderful. And you, even though you two are new in this relationship, as you build
yeah, I
that
mean like
trust,
a week and a half, like this is brand new.
right? And I know Sam, she's done an amazing job of building trust really early on, which is fantastic. But as you build that trust and that foundation, that's just more of a release that you can have of those things that you want done a specific way. Delegating can be hard to let
Yeah.
go. And once you kind of get that rhythm and routine, then you can legitimately let it go. And that's pretty great.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty great. Okay, so before we talk about how, in order to be able to talk about how to find the right match and find this magical, wonderful, all the happy feels, let's talk about what not to do, because base started back when virtual EA was a brand new concept before remote work was as common as it is now. But now you can find EA, virtual EA, remote EA, subscription, membership, very, very cheap, whatever. I mean, you can find all these different options, but that doesn't mean that it's good. So let's talk, before we talk about how to find the right EA, let's talk about what not to do. What are some of the things that you have to kind of like either help someone heal from a bad experience or kind of point them in a different direction? What are some of the common mistakes that people make in finding an EA?
So there are a lot of things that you should not do, but they can kind of be put in two different categories. One is focusing on the wrong things, and I can talk about what that is. And then the other one is not having a clear scope, and that includes kind of expectations for your goals. What are the priorities and the responsibilities? Either the scope is too big or it's too small. But I can talk about that first one. So over focus on skills versus fit. We see this all the time because we are presenting EAs constantly to leaders who are coming in. And they might say to us, I need an EA with X number of years of experience, and they need to have all of these different expert level skills within certain tools that I use. That's good. Ideally, we find somebody who matches you personally and culturally, and they have all of those skills. But if you have to pick one over the other, fit trumps everything because skills can be taught, but personality can't be taught. That's just kind of who they are. And that fit is so critical. You might have somebody who knows all of your tools, but if you don't communicate the same way, you're not going to get
Mm-hmm.
very far.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so um, what are some of the, like, as you're reminding yourself of that, how do you think that, how do you do that? Because, we're talking about busy leaders who are like, oh my gosh, I'm drowning and I finally know that I'm going to get some help. It is really easy to focus on like, I'm going to need them to do this, and this. What do you recommend that people should do to either like slow down or pause and think about what that fit might look like? How do you judge for that?
Yes, there are a couple things that we recommend and all things that we implement within our process as well. But real life projects, we call them sample projects,
Mm.
they're critical. Every EA who comes into our talent pool does a sample project that we've refined for a very long time at this point, and it's based on real world examples, things that we've actually seen with our clients, and it has a bunch of really subtle kind of not tricks in there, but important details that you must catch. And you won't, they will not score well on that sample project unless they catch those details, because it's
Mhm.
showing us how are they looking at things and how are they communicating. But if you're doing this on your own, that's critical that you do some sort of sample project that is relevant to your life, and that you see how did they handle this? Does this jive with what I'm looking
Mhm.
for? How I might handle it? Because if it's not, then you either need to be like, oh, wow, that was a better idea, or it's probably not a right fit. And how are they writing? How are they communicating? All of that is really, really critical.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So you talked a little bit about scope. And I think without clear expectations, things can get messy, things can boil over. So, what mistakes do people typically make around scope and defining a role?
Sure. So we talked a little bit already about how EAs, a lot of people just don't really know what that role is. They know that they've got stuff that they need to get off their plate, but don't really think about what are the responsibilities of this specific role and where does that the scope of the role begin and end. So sometimes we'll see it's too wide of a scope. You need to come in and be our EA and our administrative assistant and our event planner. And EAs can do all of these things, but they are still human. And so it really helps in any role to be able to have a bit of a clear focus and a defined role. On the other side, we see it where there's too narrow of a scope. We're thinking maybe, oh gosh, I just need someone handling my calendar and my expenses, maybe a little bit of my email, and you're not really letting that your EA spread their wings and do all of the
Mhm.
things that would be really helpful for you. So scope is critical.
Yeah. So, and I have done both of those things in the past where
Sure.
I think especially founder leaders, but any type of leaders in any sort of leader situation, you're overwhelmed. You have so much going on. Your team is all over the place. The leadership that you roll up to is all over the place. Things are moving fast, and all you know is that you need help. And so it's like, here, grab this and grab this, but not this over here. I'm just going to do this monster of a project over here. And I think that's where having an intermediary with experience like Base to help facilitate that relationship
Yeah.
is really, really important. So, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people don't really know the right questions to ask either,
Oh
to
my
ask
gosh, yeah.
themselves of what am I looking for? And that's a really important part of how you define the role is what do you need? But if you haven't taken the time to do that, or maybe don't even know where to start to do that, it can be much harder to have a successful relationship.
Oh, for sure. For sure. So, okay, so we talked about overvaluing skills, not enough about fit, and then not actually really defining the role, either putting too much on this person's plate and making them a silver bullet to save the business, or just making them a fun little nice to have that's like, yeah, check my emails once a month. What else, what other issues do you see people or mistakes you see people
Yeah.
making as they work with an EA?
This is a really big one. Making sure that you're not putting too much emphasis on experience. Some of our
Mm.
best EAs, and we've actually gone back through all of the years and correlated whether or not the EA had been an EA prior to coming to work with us and their overall success and tenure with Base. And by far, a lot of the folks that are just our legendary EAs had never been an EA before. There are plenty who have, who are also wonderful, but it doesn't need to be a deal breaker. And we do see that when clients come in and they're like, I really need somebody who's been doing this for 4 to 5 years. Um, but that can also be hard to find because for many people, being an EA is a springboard into something, some
Mm.
other role within the organization. And so just you need to find that the right soft skills and the right fit, and the experience doesn't matter so much.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing is that people are looking like basically disregarding fit altogether and
Yeah.
looking at I need them to do this. I need them to know this tech stack and these tools, and I need them to have experience doing X, Y, and Z so that I can just hand them these things. Fit won't even matter because they're just going to do things for me.
Mhm.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster, honestly.
Yes, and a
So,
lot of times we see people just get assigned an assistant, whether they're working through another agency, they're just kind of matched with one, which we actually started off that way, and see way more success now that we provide options. or if you're in a corporate environment and you're just kind of someone's put on your desk. And so sometimes you just don't really have the choice. But if you can
Hmm.
at all figure out how to have the choice and then lean into it, it can be so important.
Okay. Fit is important. Maybe would you say it's the most important thing?
Oh, by
Like
far.
personality fit?
Hmm.
Okay. All right. So now that we know that, where should one start? We have all of the red flags. Don't focus too much on these things. Really focus on fit. Okay, cool. Now I'm overwhelmed. I want to work with an EA. I don't know how to find somebody that's going to be a great fit for me. Where do I start?
Yes, you've got to first ask yourself these questions that we've been talking about. What are my priorities? What's my work style? What do I need help with? Um, how am I kind of hard to work with? That's a really important one. How do I like to communicate? How do I like to give feedback and receive feedback?
Yeah.
Um, Everybody on our team, and we recommend this a lot for our clients as well, and it's part of the onboarding process, is a user guide or a user manual for yourself. And here are all of the things that you might need to know about working with me, and we have long versions, we have short versions, so that you can just kind of say, here you go. Here's a guide to working with me. And it includes troubleshooting when things are kind of sticky. So if you can't articulate those things about yourself, it's going to be murkier when you onboard your assistant. So taking the time to really define that, which will help you define the role before you start the search, or if you're working with us, we help you do that along the way, is really important.
Yeah. One thing that I was thinking about as I was filling out that survey um, was how interesting and kind of what a gift it is to be able um, to articulate those things. And maybe it's things you're working on, maybe it's things you're not, maybe it's things that you know are just shortcomings. And when you're a leader and you are working with a team, you have to work on those things, right? It's like you're constantly striving to be a better leader. You're constantly, you got to meet your team where they are. You know, if you have communication style A, but your entire team is like BCD communication styles, you've got to adapt to their communication styles and their preferences, and constantly be looking at their needs. And yes, you should absolutely try to do that with your EA too. But like, it's amazing because you have this luxury of being able to say, this is what I'm working on. This is where I'm a big pain in the butt, and I'm trying. But like, you get to have somebody meet your needs, you know,
Yes.
and help you overcome your shortcomings and help you work on the things that you're working on. It's such a gift as a leader to be able to say, look, for my team and for, you know, my peers and for my customers, like I'm trying all day to adapt and to meet everybody else where they are. But I have this one other person who's looking after me and meeting me where I am and knows all. And I think the more honest you are with your shortcomings and like, look, I am terrible at whatever, at responding to emails, or I have a really hard time with blah. That's what the more honest you are, the better they're going to be able to support you.
Oh my gosh, yes. And we've talked about this already a number of times. It's the most intimate professional role that exists. And so
Mm-hmm.
you're going to air a lot of your dirty laundry and kind of
Yeah.
the dark side of your personality just when you're working that closely with someone. And so it's better to go into it eyes wide open, just own it. We all suck
Mm-hmm.
at plenty of things, and hopefully your EA is great at that. And if you
Mm-hmm.
don't enjoy talking with your EA and having conversations and troubleshooting with them, you should probably find a different EA, because that's where the magic happens, is when you can really
Mm-hmm.
have that thought partnership and someone who's leaning in and who you know is in your corner. Think we talked about this last week too, but one of my favorite leader EA relationships, I asked, like, what makes this so special? And he said, it's because I believe she really cares for me and is in my corner. And it was such an aha moment for me of like, that's it, because you feel seen and valued and supported. And there is no way you're going to really have that unless you are taking the time to figure out, are we a fit?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, um, I mean, at the risk of sounding cheesy, I mean, because it is, it really is. It's the one person professionally that you have who's like looking out for you, especially again, especially as a leader. Like you're constantly looking at everybody else and prioritizing everybody else and meeting everybody else where they are and showing up for other people and being there to serve and being that support system and like having somebody else that you don't have to, that you don't hold accountable, that is holding you accountable instead, is pretty incredible. And again, like I know this whole thing is about finding the right person. That will not happen if, going back to all those mistakes that you see people making, if you're saying, yeah, but they have to be really, really great at managing this CRM tool that I have. Cool, maybe, but like really they have to be really great at working with you and supporting you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ideally, all of those boxes are checked, which frequently we can
Yes.
do. But yes, the fit is critical. And the only way that you can do that, I mean, we talked about taking the time to really define the role, but then you just kind of got to get out there and have
Mm-hmm.
conversations because it is such a personal role. Talk with the candidates, understand. Oh, yeah, that was great. That was a fun conversation. Or no, that was kind of painful and pretty awkward. And then just have that conversation. Talk about times when they've failed. Talk about times where they couldn't achieve everything that they set out to achieve. Talk about how they handle kind of tense situations and how they have given feedback in the past. And all of those things are so revealing and can also be really bonding if you're aligned on them.
Mm-hmm.
All of those
Right.
are great places to start.
Well, it's interesting too because there's, I mean, how many LinkedIn lives are there about hiring your VP of sales or, finding the right CXO? And I don't think we talk often enough about literally taking that same amount of time finding this one person that's going, has the opportunity to be like your biggest supporter and ally professionally. I think that there's kind of this mentality of like just check a box, EA, check box checked, subscription made, they're here, give them the credentials so that they can sign into the accounts, done. But if
Mhm,
you're taking that much time to go hire an executive leader for your team, why would you, why it's going to take some time. It's going to take a lot of conversations. It's going to take a lot of reflection about who you are and about who you need them to be,
mhm.
if you're going to get all of the benefit that you absolutely can get out of it.
Yes. EAs are not one size fits all. And same with leaders. We're not one size
No.
fits all. And that's okay. That's what makes it
Yeah.
so special. But yes, you're exactly right. So many times we get people coming to us and they've had a bad fit, or they've been trying to hire for this role for a while and not finding anyone that they're interested in. It can be a really, really hard role to look for and to
Mm-hmm.
screen and to place. We know because it's literally the only role that we've been searching for for over a decade.
Yeah.
And so we get it. And it can be such a breath of fresh air when people come to us and like, yes, we got it. We got the candidates. All you need to do is show up and be authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that can be such a relief.
Yeah. And honestly, like I know this, it sounds like an ad for base, but I'm okay with that because like I just went through this. I just went through this process. I just went through the survey and it was actually kind of fun. Like instead of writing out the job description and posting the job description and manually going through all the things and looking at resumes that I don't know what to look for because I'm not an expert in finding an EA and like talking to a lot of people and being like, oh my gosh, I really like this person, but I don't know if they can do what I need them to do. Instead, I just filled out this survey that talked about me and my preferences and who I am and where I need support. And then you provided me with three incredible options. And I found the one that I think that was the best fit for me. And it was in a matter of like a day. And it was just like, there you go. And she kind of onboarded me. And it took all of the um, awkwardness out of the picture of me having to set up a meeting and being like, okay, here's where I need your help. Like she guided me. She was like, tell me how you're feeling about this. Okay, maybe that's a thing we can work on later. Oh, that's a top priority thing. I'll work on that. Here's what I need from you. And I was like, this is amazing. Like you, between you and her, like you guided me through the process.
Mhm.
And again, like that's the beauty of working with base, working with someone like you who knows what you're doing and has made it really, really easy for the leader to find not just an EA, but to find the right EA.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And you're freshly out on your own, it wouldn't make any sense for you to go hire somebody right now.
Heck no.
Like,
Yeah. No.
delegation is where the magic is. And yes, I'm just so happy that I mean, you're such a perfect leader to support in so many ways. And so, yes, I'm just so glad it's working out.
Um, I'm going to clip that part that you said I'm a perfect leader in so many ways. I'm just going to use that
Yes,
everywhere.
please do.
Okay, so we talked about kind of where to start. I will like shout from the mountaintops all day long about why you should work with base, because I truly, I mean, that's why we're doing this, is because I believe in it so much. Like, you're finally cracking the code in my life about like getting me the support that I need. So, okay, let's talk also about, you're in the process. I hope you're working with base. Even if you're not, what are some of the things that you should look for as you're talking to someone? Basically, as you're kind of like interviewing, you're talking about like where they can help. What are some of the things that you can look for to ensure that it's going to be a good fit?
Yeah, and the list of things that we look for is quite long, but I can kind of take through a
Yeah.
handful of the really important ones. So the first one is you want proof of proactivity and problem solving. This is really, really important. The number one problem that we see in relationships, and also if the fit's not right, we see it in our partnerships as well with our EAs, that if people are not being proactive enough, the leader is not going to be supported. But sometimes it's impossible to be proactive if you're not given the context and the access that you're
Mm-hmm.
looking for. And so dig in with situational questions. It's so important to see, how do you handle this? And it's what I was talking about, of making sure that you understand, what do you do when you have 10 things on your plate and you will only accomplish three? How do you handle it? How do you prioritize? How have you failed in the past? And then also the sample project is so important. Give them a real world example, maybe something that hasn't gone well in your past, and see how would you handle that? And it that will be, it's the best indicator of proactivity and problem solving in an interview setting.
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, and again, that can feel like a lot to go through, which is why working with someone like you is so amazing. How about being able to find that strong fit? Like, what is that? We talk about a lot about fit. Like, what does that actually look like? Like, tangibly, tactically, what does that mean to
Yeah,
base?
yeah. You you should have like a pretty good vibe when you have conversations. And that's why I think it's so important to have the live conversations with someone. We offer get to know you calls with any of the EAs that you were matched with. And internally, we call them vibe check calls, because that's really what they are. If you've got to make sure, are you flowing? Is it easy to talk to one another? And then it also gives you a chance to kind of dig into, do my habits complement your habits and your working style? How and when to give feedback is such an important one. Some people can be offended by feedback or have it feel like an attack. Some people love to give it immediately, and that can feel aggressive. And so getting aligned on kind of those core things of how do you actually functionally work, um, you can get a pretty strong sense of fit.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, I feel like a broken record saying this, but like, as a leader, there are certain, like, everything that you just said, but in the context of working with your team, it needs to look a different way. It's like, how are you doing better at providing feedback? How are you getting better at this? How can you be a better communicator for why? But like, turn it to your EA, and the more honest you can be about, like, look, I'm not great at giving feedback, or like, I love giving feedback. I all day long, like, you're going to be getting it from me all the time because I feel like we should just be constantly optimizing this relationship. Or maybe it's just like, no, I don't have time for that. Like, I need you to take me by the hand, and like, I just need you to
Mhm.
be resourceful and autonomous all day long. The more honest you can be, like, look, we can all be can and should be working on being better all the time, but it looks different in how you have to show up in the rest of your life as a leader than when you're working with your EA. And I think that's really, really special. And again, that fit of not like, how should you be and what should you look like, but like, this is who I am, and this is where I'm really going to need some help. That's what makes that relationship so powerful, because they will meet you where you are with not being great at providing feedback. It's like, great, I don't need it. I'm like, find someone who doesn't need it, and actually is like, you know what, just kind of smack me in the face with things that I'm not doing well, and give me a good thumbs up when I'm doing, like, it's
Right.
that, it's finding that fit is so.
It's so
So important.
important. I mean, let's take the feedback example. If you're not great at giving feedback, what I would expect a great EA to do is to set up structure for how you can give
Hmm.
feedback and take it piece by piece and make it really easy to you. Because as a leader, feedback is critical. You have to do it and you have to do it well and thoughtfully. But an EA can help break it into manageable pieces because otherwise it can just feel really, really overwhelming.
Hmm.
My whole team knows this, despise performance reviews. I'm big on immediate feedback, but performance reviews and the whole formal process drives me crazy. And so Debbie is so good at making sure I'm just working on it in little bits and I can do it over time and I'm not just having to sit down and be completely overwhelmed with a deluge of performance reviews. So yeah, they meet you where they are and your shortcomings, sometimes they can be turned into a strength with the partnership of your EA, but if nothing else, they're at least mitigated, which can be huge.
For sure. For you, and like we've talked about in other sessions, for you and for your team, right? It helps you, it helps round you out as a leader and helps give your team more of what they need and deserve too.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's talk about communication skills. What does that even mean anymore?
Yes. This one is so big, and we focus pretty heavily on this in our screening process of our base EAs. But you've got a lot of different types of communication. Of course, there's verbal, so you're having the live conversation. You're seeing can they communicate themselves in a way that you would feel good if they were communicating on your behalf in a spoken environment, which absolutely will happen. And the same is true for written communication, whether or not they're actually drafting emails for you or if they are writing emails as your executive assistant. They're going to be out there putting written words into the world, and you need to feel good about them. And that's another reason why that sample project is so important because you get to see how do they write. I'm really big on only using the exact amount of words that you need. I don't like a lot of fluff. And so that's a really important thing that we've talked about and was important in our matching process as well. But the third bit is EQ, emotional intelligence, because EAs can sometimes be put in difficult spots. Maybe they're having
Yeah.
to diffuse tension, maybe they're caught in the middle, or they know about a hard situation that they need to help the leader resolve. And so figuring out how do they handle those kinds of situations and do they have the problem solving and the emotional intelligence ability that you really need if they're there as your proxy, which they likely will
Hmm.
be. The communication piece that they need to be able to communicate exceptionally well, but it also has to fit your style and your vibe.
Hmm. Hmm. So again, you got to take a minute to actually do the work to see if it's fit or not.
Yep, which is
Um,
part of our onboarding process. So we help you do that.
you might want to work with base. So discretion and trustworthiness, I think, are hugely important. I mean, this is somebody who, if you're doing it right, you're letting them in on things. They know about the tough conversations. They know about the upcoming board meeting. They know about how tough fundraising is going. They know about the culture issues you're having in your team. They know about how stressed you are. They're going to see a lot of those emails. They're going to see a lot of those meetings on your calendar. They're going to see how you were talking about how Debbie does this kind of sense check with you going into the day, and you've got to be able to be real with her. If you're like, I am not okay today. Here's why, so that they can help you. So
Yeah.
how do you like suss out that ability? Like, do I think I'm going to be able to trust this person?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the interview stage, it's having conversations, talk to them about their past roles. How do they talk about their past coworkers and managers is a really critical one. Are they saying their full name? If they are, unless it's like an obvious thing that you already know,
Yeah.
that's usually a red flag to me. And if they're talking poorly about anybody, an interview is not the place to do that at all. You need to be polished and professional, and talking bad about anybody, it's not the place to do that, certainly. Um, and so just see how do they talk about others and the world around them? Are they deflecting onto other people or are they showing up with integrity? And that will give you a pretty good sense because it can be, again, it's the most intimate professional relationship. Debbie is in all of my emails, my personal inbox, all of the school ones that we have, everything. Like so finance emails are coming, personal finance emails are coming through, and she's got access to it all. And I trust her. I
Mhm.
implicitly trust her to be able to handle that, but it she had to earn it first, which she did
Yeah.
very quickly.
Yeah. Well, and again, all the more reason to work through a company like you because you've done a lot of, if not all, of that screening already. Whereas, you meet somebody who a friend of a friend knows, and they've got the availability that you need, and it's like, I don't actually know this person. But when
Mhm.
they come through base, there's already kind of that check mark of like, yeah, if you feel like you can trust them, that's great. But we're telling you that we do.
Right, exactly. And because of the nature of our relationships, our EAs are like the type of EA relationship that you're working with, where it's a part-time subscription,
Yeah.
most of our EAs will work with multiple clients. And so we've got another data point coming in of like this client loves this EA, rave about XYZ. And so we have a lot of kind of known entities across our team that just amps up that trust factor even
Mm-hmm.
further.
Yeah, and so many you've been working with for a long time. I know
Mhm.
you were telling me that there have been many EAs because I'm assuming they love working with you too. That they work with some of your clients. Sometimes they go in house full time for whatever reason they leave. They want more flexibility or whatever, and they come back and they're back into your talent pool. And so you've known a lot of these people for a really long time.
Yeah, a good number of them have been some strong and steady ones.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, okay, a couple other ones that I know that you listed here as far as things to look for when you're judging fit is adaptability and a growth mindset. So, tell me what that means to you.
Yes, gosh, the world is changing so rapidly right now with technology, how we work, where we work, and I'm guessing if you're a busy leader, you are evolving pretty rapidly, and your organization is changing very, very rapidly. And so an EA frequently is kind of caught in the middle of all of this change. And as clear as you might be about expectations and scope, a lot of it is going to be in this ambiguous space that can be really hard to define for an EA. And they not only need to be good at that, but they need to enjoy not having a lot of guidance and figuring out what else can I be doing to give myself more leverage, because that only means more leverage for the person that I'm working with and supporting. And how do I adapt to all the things that are changing? It could be what are the new tools that are out there, but also what other needs do we have in the organization that maybe I could be useful for? And
Mm-hmm.
the best EAs do this without you even realizing that they're doing it.
Yeah, and it's man, that's so important because in any organization, yes, a leader's role is going to change all the time, especially in a startup. If we're talking a founder that's being supported by an EA, your entire job. I mean, you and I both know this. We've been there. I mean, your entire job changes every quarter, maybe sometimes many times a year, at least once or twice a year. Your entire job
Mhm,
changes how you're spending your days, what you're responsible for, who you're talking to all the time, what your priorities are. And I'm not talking like project by project, like your entire job. And having to turn around and explain that to someone that's like, wait, I thought that this was like, you can't. You need somebody who's just going to roll with it and notice it and say, hey,
mhm,
looks like this has changed. Is that good? Do you want to try to get this back? Or, should we adjust your schedule and whatever accordingly?
mhm.
That's massive having that kind
Yeah,
of support.
great EA. You and I have talked about this so much. A great EA points the leader like an arrow of exactly where they need to be going. And the leader, of course, needs to provide the input of where that is. But if you're fundraising, you've got two jobs
Yeah.
for one, but your focus is completely different and your day to day looks completely different, which means your EA's role is completely different for that time. They are also
Yeah.
fundraising. And the same is true if you're going through M&A, the same is true if you have legal struggles, the same is true if you're writing a book. Your role changes all of the time, and your EA has to be able to adapt with you and still continue to provide that support.
Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. And then we've talked a lot about compatibility and fit with you as the leader, um, so that you can be the best version of you and the most whole leader you can be. But what about adaptability and like fit and compatibility with the team?
Mhm.
Does that come into play?
Yes, hugely, because the EA in so many ways is your proxy and they're out there interacting with the world on your behalf. So got to be able to be compatible with those who are in your world. And that could be your manager, your direct reports, your partner, your children. It could be anybody. And making sure that the fit, going back to that again, but just that they're compatible with that, but also know where to plug in. I think at Base, we talk a lot about not really having rigid bounds of our job descriptions. And an EA is exactly that by practice. And so ideally, you see an EA who cares about you and they're there in your corner, but they care about your organization and what you're doing. And that very well could lead to them growing with your organization, maybe alongside you as your EA, or maybe in some other capacity within the organization. And we see both all of the time. And the great EAs, they know how to do that.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay. So, in summary, I think the big takeaway here is fit, right? You've
Yes.
got to find someone, a person who is a good fit with you as a person, and then everything else.
Mhm.
Um, and it seems to me like a great way to vet that. You talked a lot about real life projects and actually having somebody go through something, which can be really hard if you're the EA. I mean, like we've all gone through one of those job applications where it's like, please do a thing for free for us. And so instead of doing that, what if you had someone drop in to your inbox or your calendar, and Base has something called a reset that could let you actually try out this relationship and see if it's a fit both ways, right? So tell me about a Base reset and then kind of what your special offer is for people watching this conversation.
Yes. So I believe everybody in the world deserves support and should have access to an executive assistant. But I know it's not realistic for everybody in the world to go and hire an assistant right now. And so we've developed these products called resets. So an inbox reset, a calendar reset, and we're also working on a cloud reset that will be released soon. And the idea is that one of our base EAs who's trained specifically to do these resets just kind of helicopters in to your inbox, let's say, they clean it up. They work with you on who's important, what's not important, what do we need to get out of your way, what do we need to make sure you see. They clean it up, they optimize it, they automate it, and then tell you how to run it. And then they're off. And so it's just this one time thing. Frequently, people want to work with their BCA after that, but you don't have to. You definitely don't
Yeah.
have to. So, what we're doing right now through the end of the year, if you buy one reset of any type, you get another one for free to gift. We have a lot of resets gifted to significant others and also to other team members. Um, but it's a great gift to give to anybody who also probably should work with an EA but isn't ready to do it right at that
Mm-hmm.
moment. So it's pretty
Yeah.
exciting.
And what better way to actually try it out, and to see what it's like to work with this person outside of any sort of interview process. So, yeah. So, buy one, get one free, do a reset. And they're just like $750, right? And
Mhm.
right now you can get two of them, one for you and one for somebody else. Um, Amazing. Okay. And where can people find out more?
basehq.com has everything that you need. We've got a contact us button on there, and someone will give you a call and reach back out to you as quickly as they can.
Amazing. Fantastic. Well, thank you, Paige, and thank you, Base, for helping me. Also, I, it really is a game changer. Like I even just in a couple of weeks, it's incredible. Like my energy for things and how excited I am about some of the things that have been just on my plate, and actually, it's going from things that have been stressing me out to things that are getting me excited. And so, I just want that for everybody else too. So,
Yes, me too.
um, so next week we're going to talk about how to get started. So like, cool, you've done all of this, you've got an EA on board, how to avoid some of the common pitfalls, how to get started so that you're on the right track. And then our last one on December 16th, I think it is, we're going to talk about optimizing, right? So you're working with an EA, how to get the best out of that relationship for both of you. So thank you for being here. Thank you everybody for joining. And yeah, let's you should probably talk to Base.
Yes, thanks, Lindsay.